Tissue engineering, what is it?
It's an emerging field, interdisciplinary field that combines engineering and life sciences to create functional biological structures that can restore and improve tissue function. Examples include bladders, trachea blood vessels, and if you look at it, printing as a technology has also gone through the revolution, and well, it's been around for hundreds of years.
In the last couple of decades, it's been a new dimension.
We can now print layer by layer in materials ranging from plastic to metal, to concrete, to chocolate, from the smallest scales to the largest. If you take 3D printing and we combine it with biology, we have bioprinting, where the building blocks are cell aggregates where we call bioling particles that are composed of thousands of cells that can fuse together into different shapes. These geometries can include multi-layered sheets, such as skin, branching tubes for vasculature, and the sophistication of this manufacturing technology improves daily to include different cell types and different shapes.
And now, why is it important? The pharmaceutical industry at the moment is in a moment of crisis.
It spends more money each year on R&D, but has fewer drugs to show for it.
It takes more than a decade, more than $1 billion to develop a new Another ancient Greek philosopher we need to discuss is Aristotle's ethical theory. What Aristotle's ethical theory is all about is this: he's trying to show you how to be happy, what true happiness is. Now, why is he interested in human happiness? It's not just because it's something that all people want to aim for. It's more than that. But to get there, we need to first make a very important distinction. Let me introduce a couple of technical terms: extrinsic value and intrinsic value. To understand Aristotle's interest in happiness, you need to understand this distinction. Some things we aim for in value, not for themselves but for what they bring about in addition to themselves. If I value something as means to something else, then it has what we will call extrinsic value, other things we desire and hold to be valuable for themselves alone. If we value something not as means to something else, but for its own sake, let us say that it has intrinsic value, exercise. There may be some people who value exercise for itself, but I don't. I value exercise because if I exercise, I tend to stay healthier than I would if I didn't. So I desire to engage in exercise, and I value exercise extrinsically, not for its own sake, but as a means to something beyond it. It brings me good health. And the cost of a failure can be measured in hundreds of millions of dollars. Both men and women gained weight, but when it came to race, black women had the most rapid weight gain, followed by white women and then black and white men. The weight gain was just a few pounds, but even a slightly higher BMI is associated with weight-related health issues. Several reasons exist for the weight discrepancy between the single and married people. For example, married men and women may be less concerned about their body weight because they're no longer actively seeking a mate. Plus, married people have a regular dining partner, possibly leading to more meals. On the single side, those who are widowed or have gone through a divorce may lose weight due to stress. So while this news may not be good for the smug marrieds, it may be welcomed by Bridget Jones. The single, and very weight-conscious, Jones may actually have had the easier path to staying thin than her married friends. We are trying to understand the locomotion of one of our closest living relatives, which is the orangutan, and also the locomotion of all of the apes and the common ancestor of humans and the other apes. And in that area, we have had a big problem, traditionally, and that we know a lot about how they move around the forest. I've been out to the forest and spent a year recording the different types of locomotion they use, but we have no idea about the energetic cost of how they move around the forest and the solutions that they find to problems of moving around the canopy. And what we're doing here is using the parkour athletes as an analogy for a large-bodied ape moving around a complex environment and getting them to move around in the course that we've made that they've never seen before. And we're going to record their energetic expenditure while they're doing it. I'm going to argue that the tremendous increases in productivity that we associate with the Industrial Revolution originate not so much from changes in science or technology or new inventions, where England was far from unique, as from changes in attitudes towards morality, towards what constituted the good. Attitudes towards property, which became in England individuals long before it did on the continent. Attitudes toward the proper role of government. And, together, these attitudes constitute much of what the Luddites were protesting against. Well, the banana is the first cultivated fruit. It's one of the food items that literally brought people out of the jungle, out of their hunter-gatherer lifestyles, and was there at the dawn of agriculture, which is what helped force human beings into communities. It's really one of the things that helped invent human culture. It's about 7,000 years of history, and the banana, from its center of origin, which is believed to be Papua New Guinea, spread out with people who traveled in boats across the Pacific into the mainland of Asia and all the way south to Australia, across Indonesia and Micronesia, and eventually they moved as far as Africa and even possibly to Ecuador, all in this time, and all on paddle boats and wind-driven boats. Always try to best understand your partner's specific communication styles. A lot of times we'll take it personally if we notice someone's avoiding us or they're communicating with us less frequently than we'd like, and this doesn't mean that they don't care about you or they don't respect you. This is likely how they were modeled communication as a child. Your partner's communication style typically comes from how their caregivers communicated with each other. You should feel comfortable asking your partner, how do you best handle conflict? Also, some people struggle with verbal communication, so if that's the case, you may want to ask your partner to write down what they're feeling. And this way they won't feel so overwhelmed. Finally, know that communication requires compromise. So if you have a completely different communication style from your partner, know that it's going to be a work in progress until you figure out how you're both best going to communicate. The first 2 years of a baby's life are critical for brain development. In this study, parents were given video-based tips on how best to interact with their babies according to their particular needs. By the age of 3, the baby still had some developmental difficulties, but their social skills had improved, and 2/3 fewer met the criteria for a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, compared to babies who received standard care. The research charity Autistica said the study was promising and people should not have to wait for a diagnosis for support to be provided. But the National Autistic Society said autism was not a disease that should be cured or lessened. The research team says longer-term studies on more babies using the technique are now needed. Research suggests that some are more susceptible than others, especially those who are self-conscious, anxious, and afraid of being judged negatively by others. So, how can we avoid choking when it really counts? First, it helps to practice under stressful conditions. In a study on expert dart players, researchers found that those who hadn't practiced under stress performed worse when anxious compared to those who had become accustomed to pressure. Secondly, many performers extol the virtues of a pre-performance routine, whether it's taking a few deep breaths, repeating a cue word, or doing a rhythmic sequence of movements. Studies on golfing, bowling, and water polo find that short rituals can lead to more consistent and accurate performance under
Today we look up into the skies to explore the past and present of the tallest buildings in the world. Skyscrapers were first built in the late 19th century. Engineers then probably would not believe the soaring heights of today's tallest buildings. Skyscrapers represent modernity, power, and the expanding boundaries of human invention and new technology. Skyscrapers were invented in the United States. As early as the 1880s, two new technical developments made these taller buildings possible. One development was the mechanical elevator. It meant that people would not have to climb many steps to reach the upper floors of tall buildings. The development of steel building technology also helped make taller buildings possible. What can you do with earthworms? Some people use the creepy crawlers to catch fish. But others put worms to work making compost. Compost looks and feels like good soil. Gardeners and farmers add it to soil to make plants grow better. You can make compost from food waste at home with or without the help of worms. How the worms help is by first eating and processing the food. It comes out the other end of the worm as rich compost. Kim Gable from the University of Florida Extension Service in Key West suggests using red worms known as red wigglers. This week, we explore music through the eyes of two married couples. One of them produces recordings of traditional Hawaiian music. The other husband and wife combine music with poetry from their Irish and Sri Lankan Tamil ancestries. And, later in our program, we learn how an American composer created an online choir of more than 2,000 singers from all over the world. Lori and Jake Rohrer live near the small town of Haiku on the Hawaiian island of Maui. They have a recording studio in their home. They are helping to support the music of artists who they say are extremely talented yet largely unknown. Lori discovered Hawaiian music at the age of 8. She came from a military family stationed at Pearl Harbor on the island of Oahu.
The timetable will be posted on the website in the morning. This book invites readers to discuss future directions in social development. The officer has urged that these political issues be addressed.